speaking about the judiciary, and thankfully both of you are well-versed in law, you're legal practitioners. When the president said that the fight against corruption is impeded by the slow nature of the judiciary, what exactly does that mean? Do you agree with that yourself?
I do.
Well, I have to say this, that when he talks about the slow system impeding the pace of work, I'm not so sure I agree with him, because what is slow about the system? I mean, the president is the chief executive officer of the federal government of Nigeria, and under the laws of Nigeria, he is to implement the laws of this country. So if he fails to implement those laws or facilitate the implementation of the laws, he cannot turn around and pass the bulk. I have to say, with the greatest respect, that the judiciary has found itself in a very difficult situation in Nigeria. In many of the states that operate in Nigeria, the judicial arms of government is clearly emasculated financially. And I'm glad now, it's only now that the president and many others are even thinking of judicial autonomy at the state level. Now, at the national level, you must understand the volume of work that the judiciary is made to cope with, and the level of litigation in our country is extremely high. Unless and until additional courts are specially designated and created under the laws of our country, we are likely to have that slow pace of work, and that cannot be faulted on the part of the judiciary. It still will have to come back to the executive arm of government, which has the exclusive preserve of directing policies that will bring about good governance in this country.
Let me get your thoughts on this as well, Mr. Odok, because if you say that you agree that the system can be slow, and that's the reason why Mr. President is perceived as being slow in execution, what then would you say about identification? Can you identify those parts that makes the system slow? Is it the judiciary? Is it the prosecution arm? Is it the conviction arm? Where exactly is this slow movement coming from?
Thank you. I am a victim of intimidation. I left the University of Calabar because of intimidation by the Vice Chancellor, University of Calabar. The whole system is slow. Investigation. I was attacked. I was to be assassinated. And those who were to assassinate me were caught red-handed. Until today, the investigation system has been so slow that nothing has been done. Though even those who were arrested by DSS at the scene of the crime have long begun enjoying their leave. I was sacked without I was given a query. I replied, and then after I replied, I was sacked. And after after this thing, I was given suspension. When I handed down my acknowledged copies of replies to my queries, the Vice Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor, with the collusion of the police, arrested me for unfounded reason of acquiring arms and ammunition, for which they searched my house without seeing any. After that, there was assassination attack. After that, I had to run down. Even when I presented certified true copy of a police report on my attempted murder, even after that, they invited me, and after resigning, they went on to say they have sacked me. That is the nature. The processes are so slow.
Just a minute. I know you know that there are two sides to a story. You're just narrating your side. There's no way we can get to hear from those who you're accusing of collusion. So I suggest we'll just move on to the next one. But just hang on a minute. We'll take that or we'll come back in a moment. Just hang on. Don't go away. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back, Dr. Odok. Okay, let's rephrase the question. Since the perception or the comment by the president saying the judiciary seems to be slow, impeding the fight against corruption. Tell us pointedly now, what has he done about it?
He can't actually, like my fellow panelists have rightly said, that there is for the president to do. We excuse the judiciary in some issues, especially the burden of work that they have in their hands. We have few courts, we have few judges, and Nigeria became it was almost turning into a country where criminals were in power, and so there are so many cases before the judiciary. There's need for expansion. But before we talk about expansion, there needs to be funding. It's just like somewhere I met, there was a time I met a woman whose house was razed down. I wouldn't expect him, I wouldn't expect her to build up in a second. PDP have ruled for 16 years. The president needs funds to build new, expand the work. Even the investigation agencies also need this. Every section, we are talking about issues of unemployment. We are talking about issues of infrastructure. Now, as we on strike, there are myriads of problems.
Mr. Odok, you said something earlier.
Very little. The
Dr.
president
if I may come in here,
so much.
You said something earlier about the investigation part of things slowing things down. So if the question is, what exactly can be done to speed things up from the investigation, which was what you alluded to before we went on that break. Investigation is slow and prosecution is slow. So it is what the courts get that they can work with. So what can be done, or what should be done to speed up investigation and prosecution?
We are really in an unfortunate situation. Nigeria at a point stopped working because there are a lot of money back that pay more to this to investigating agent and corrupt the process. So the issues are issues of making a corruption serious crime. China could grow when corruption was taken more seriously.
Okay.
So, but
All
it's just that the level of work is so much, the level of commitment is so slow. We need more than 1,000 Buhari to keep Nigeria working.
Okay, let's bring in your co-panelists to respond to this bit about what can be done. If it's identified that it's the investigation and prosecution that is slowing things down, who has the power to quicken it up, and what should be done?
Well, first, let me make it clear that I speak as a person who is not aggrieved against the society. I just want society to be successful, and to that extent, I clearly state with all emphasis that the position of the law is very clear. The president is the chief executive officer of this country. All the investigating agencies are directly under his supervision. He appoints their heads, and he has controlling effect on these agencies. And then the police, which he talked about, the State Security Service, and all other security apparatus that are at the disposal of the president are exclusively under the command of the president. So even if the system remains corruptible and is still rotting 3.5 years after the president has taken over, it means that we are witnessing very slow or no progress in the reforms and change of mindset of the security community, because you cannot expect, as he has rightly admitted, a corrupt security organization to effect change in the Nigerian society. And nothing can go on without the security agencies. I cannot suddenly become an investigator, neither will he become an investigator. He has been a victim of the system. The question is, in 3.5 years, how have they contributed to improving the system? So, squarely speaking, we have to redevelop our police. We have practically a moribund police force, which is key to the development of a modern society. We have to work on the EFCC, expand its personnel, give it greater training, create additional courts, specialized courts for it, and severely fund the judiciary in a way as to modernize the judiciary. Do you imagine how many judges write all their life as judges, manually, taking records of what everybody says? In which developed country will you see that type of manual approach, that analog approach to judicial proceedings? So these are some of the institutional limitations that the justice system is suffering. And that can only be solved by the government of the day, not by those on the streets, and not by coming to television to post or to sloganeer. We have to deal with it, and that's why we have elected a government. If it fails, that's unfortunate.